time to discuss NEO. Joining us now, Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent for the Schwab Network. Kev, we just talked some Tesla. Tesla's certainly been a bit of a struggle. When we look at this, talking about this particular name, Kev, tell me what you're looking at here with the stock doing just a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at NEO, I mean, at the end of the day, they actually did have a pretty decent earnings announcement, actually surprising the street in certain respects here. And their guidance was actually fairly strong moving forward when it comes to their production guidance. So once again, I mean, we've seen these headwinds, as you guys have talked about it in the past here when you're looking at the EV space, where there's been just weakness across the board in the Chinese market. But once again, they've been able to improve the top line performance. Their margins actually did contract by around 7%. Or they're sitting at around 7% right now, a lot less than what you would have expected for this company at this part of the cycle. But I think the production numbers are definitely going to be the key area of focus here in the near term when you're looking at NEO or any other EV name that's out there within the Asia Pacific markets as well. If you're looking at BYD or even looking at Tesla, as you guys were talking about earlier.
So Kevin, now looking at, I think one of the bigger stories coming out of China today, or more so coming out of the US, but it does obviously have to do with China, and that's AMD being hit with these restrictions. They did not make their chips basically simple enough, to my understanding. This is so funny to me, the way these companies with like the greatest technology out there having to dumb down to then appease these export conditions. Crazy story to me. Walk us through what you're seeing in AMD.
Yeah, I mean, today is just everything's China today, right? When you're talking about the EV space, if you're looking at AMD and the chip space here, so we are actually seeing additional restrictions being put in place for AMD for them selling their chips over to China. And they actually now have to get a license, similar to what we saw for NVIDIA. They're going to have to get a license from the Bureau of Industry and Security, which is something that I actually have just learned about today as far as that particular bureau here. And this just goes to show the tensions between the US and China. And now we do have these restrictions in place for these advanced chips in order to try to block China from utilizing them within their military capabilities. So a lot of these chips have to be dumbed down, if you will, in order to be able to be sold to China. Unfortunately, Jenny, though, there does seem to be a situation where a lot of these chips, even though they are meeting the specifications to be able to be sold, especially when you're talking about NVIDIA, are then also being modified within China in order to try to ramp up the AI training here. So it's a bump in the road, to say the least, but not something that's uncommon. We've seen the same thing with NVIDIA. I believe they've been blocked 2 or 3 times, if you will, as they had to adjust their product offering for these advanced chips. So AMD will get over it here. We are seeing the shares down about 1.5%. And if you think about it, that's not a bad reaction given the broader market today. 1.5%. I'm sure a lot of investors are kind of happy with that based on the circumstances right now.
Yeah, well said, Kev. I mean, I'm looking kind of across the board. China's dominated so many stories. Obviously, it's dominating Tesla, it's NEO, it's got Apple weakness tied to some weakness in the iPhone. Now AMD, the next name, and of course the one that you just kind of went through the story. But even on an underperforming day, these semiconductor names, the NVIDIAs, the AMDs are outperforming the NASDAQ. So it's like even when you knock them down, they're still outperformers, at least relatively.
Yeah, they're still holding up for the most part here. I would say, keep your eye out on those that have strong positive cash generation, the NVIDIAs, the AMDs, those that are definitely getting into the space on the infrastructure side. I think you're seeing a little bit of weakness when it comes to the software or the consumable side of AI. And that's, to be seen here if that's going to be the trend. One thing to also kind of note, though, Alex, if you look at the broad base indexes, the S&P 500 equal weight, or even the NASDAQ equal weight compared to the market weighted indexes, we're actually faring pretty well overall in this market. So yeah, semis continue to outperform. I think the large cap, mega cap stocks are definitely dragging down these indexes, but under the hood, there's actually some good bright spots here in this market overall, at least for right now as we head into the last couple of hours of trading.
Yeah, and I have to say, Kevin, that all things considered, I saw this story pre-market. We're not really down like substantially. NVIDIA is even only down about 0.8%. The resiliency of these stocks. I know NVIDIA really has nothing to do with this story, but I just naturally check NVIDIA. It's amazing. I mean, AMD not even making too bad of a move today to the downside. But we will leave it there. Great breakdown on all of the various China stories that are weighing on stocks today. Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent for the network.